Hello, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. If you didn't hear that beginning, hello, everybody, and welcome to the broadcast. I don't know if there's a delay. I want to show you tonight, folks, we're going to talk about voice to skull, or as it's known, its acronym V2K. I don't know how that came up, but I can see voice to, but the K is the second letter in skull, maybe. So I will see if I can open the chat box here. It's one of the docs. Chat. There you go. Open chat. You should be able to be in the chat now. I've officially started it. Let me put on here. Chat me anything. Oops, went back. Let's see it again. Chat me anything. There we go. Okay, so it's working. All I had to do is hit the doc. If you're there, if you see me and you're live, please chat when you come in so that I know that you're here. Some people can hit right on a stream as soon as you tick it, but I'm going to wait until I see someone for now, till I might see someone subscribe. And that way, we'll see if I know when someone's in here. But I'm checking out my camera. Everything should be working to you guys from what you see. I had a little bit of trouble. I'm a little bit later. Advertised 12:30, but it's 12:57 right now. And I had trouble with my microphone when I would sit down at my laptop. I use my MacBook Air, and it did not recognize my studio microphone, this one that has the different voices on it. If anybody's heard any, if you know these kind of mixers, they make your voice sound different if you like. And this one's supposed to be a woman's voice of mine, but it sounds super clownish and like a alien robot. It sounds like and a baby. It sounds like all of the sound effects mixed into one. Let me go through them. This is one of the lower level cheap mixers that I got. Let me show you on the camera. It doesn't light up on the backdrop picture that I've got of the ISS behind me. I'm in the ship. That's why I'm floating around. See, I can float up or I can float down. Or I can float up or I can float down. See, I'm down here in the bottom of the going across. I'm Kilroy. Yeah, I hide around on walls. Yeah, this sounds super sick. My voice sounds exactly like a woman. Hey, buddy. Those are the same pants you're gonna wear every day. You don't have an ass. Look at you. Glenda, at high school, she said something to me and it stuck with me. She came up behind me. She goes, Alex, you don't have a butt. You don't have an ass. I was like, what? I'm looking in the chat and I'm trying to browse through some features on my studio setup here while I'm waiting, making sure we're tweaked in the right direction. How many of you know what voice to skull is? If you're in here, say yes. Voice to skull is where you actually hear someone's voice. Let me change this.
How about this? This would be the male voice as it's supposed to sound. If you like that, I can leave this one on the here, and it may sound a little more pleasing to listen to than my mousy voice in normal settings. So let's keep looking. We're still on the male voice. It goes lower. It's not just a male voice, but it sounds really, really low. Yeah, it sounds low. I wonder if it's actually in lower frequencies or pitch, or if it's just solely a sound mixing modulation without changing the pitch. Therefore, it would not be lower than my normal voice. It would just sound gruffer without the pitch down. Let me release the screen for you so you can see the screen. Okay, if you can see the screen, that's good. Let me tell you about a man who was working for the government. He goes down and he goes to work in a building next to where the cruise ships take off. Let me get out of this voice.
Okay, I think this voice will work. Hey, I told you not to do that. Don't do that. Don't do that, doodah. Don't do that, doodah. For a little while, I had a neighbor named Doodah that lived down the street at my mother's place I stayed at for a few months, and her husband was, I guess, my stepdad for the time. But down the street from his little ranch with the cows were some kids that lived in a trailer, and they would come over and play with our Nintendo stuff, and then they stole a bunch of pieces and stuff, and it just disappeared. They were the only people that ever came over. They should know better. They should know better how to do it. Let me get off of this voice.
Okay, this is supposed to be. Guess what this one is supposed to be? It sounds like Satan, imagining him in hell with power, pulling people down like a gruff, nasty individual. I don't see why he would scare people away if he wanted them to follow him down. I think he can fool you by being your friend, your neighbor, someone who supports you. Wow, wow, wow. There's like an echo and a delay. Wow, wow. Hey, baby. Come on and sit right down beside me. Let me put my big, meaty hands on your shoulders and give you a rub. You've been up working all day, baby. You deserve that. Come on. That would be, could you imagine if this was the voice in your skull? Yeah, this would be voice to skull. They found out that the frequencies in your brain vibrate between 40 and 80 hertz. It's a simple, that's not a very high pitch, but that's what the jelly in your head, that's what the scientist said. I watched his talk. I think he gave not a TED talk, but a similar scientific meeting talk about how he invented it by pointing his antenna at the heads of people with 40 or 60 hertz and transmitting with a microphone or whatever input device he had to make them think something. And I think his test got approved to go into further study, and he got money, and he got research, and he developed it from there. That doesn't sound very good either, so let's let's go to
The default. The default. That's my normal voice. Okay, now we're back to the real world. If we turn it way up, that sounds. My voice still sounds modulated, like it's got some rumble in the bottom, but that makes a buzz, a buzz, a buzz. It gives it the deep sound that you like to hear. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play what you're looking on the screen at. This is a video I've pulled up on Rumble. Oh no, this was the one on YouTube. The targeted individual community. The thing about this video is it is old. I think this is about 10 years old. I was watching this guy when he was doing these videos. So I watched this on Vice. I've seen him do what he does, and he hung around with this young girl. She's in the video. I saw her face. She's the brunette, Sarah. They're going to talk to a semi-attractive, not a smoke show, but she's, if you were in an AA meeting or something and she was sitting there, you would do her. She would be attractive. But her name is Sarah. I remember when she first went to MUFON meetings and was going to all the UFO stuff, because she's had experiences where she says she flew through the sun, things like that. And people suspected of her of being one of these elite assassins. And she followed Max Spears, and he died. When he died, she was there. And this man right here, I forget his name at the moment, he actually said on his show about within a couple of weeks that he thought that Sarah gave him the poison or whatever killed him. He got sick, went to his stomach, and he threw up this nasty slime. And they don't know who gave it to him or how he got it ingested. And I think, I'm just telling you my input, it was Sarah. And she's going to be the dark-haired girl on here with the semi-attractive, twerky nose. You'll see it. But so what I'm telling you is this guy was going to out her. And then she called him and said, if you do that, I will kill you. So they were telling each other bad things, like we're going to unalive one another. Not one another, but she threatened him. So he stopped. He stopped doing the videos, and he was not going to investigate it anymore because he had mentioned her name when he was doing his research. And she threatened him. So when you watch this video, I haven't seen what she says yet, but I guarantee you it's all show. It's all for the moment, wherever she went to, whatever Congress or meeting she was at, and somebody put her on a microphone, and she was trained to be a sex kitten. She's always sleeping with her boyfriends, and that, which most of us do, but she's fine. But except for she probably murdered Max Spears. She would be connected to, I don't know what mafia hit ring, because she doesn't seem like the typical Jesuit Catholic assassin. She's got new agey space ideas about the universe and the powers and the source and the energy and coming through. I remember listening to her, and she said that she remembers flying through the sun. And I thought, wow, what would that be like? And then I remembered I did that too. I did actually. I was, when I was out of body, the time I was giving the missionary discussion, and it's like God pulled me right out of my body. And I had this experience where I flew through planets and through the floor, and he asked me, what do you want? And I saw him. And I said, that answer their prayer so they can be baptized. His family we were teaching. And he said, why? Not in a mean faith. He just said, why? And I looked down through the floor, and I could see right in the kitchen where we were all at. And I saw almost 100 continents, guys. It's flat. So if you can get beyond, we're in the center. Our North Pole is everybody's North Pole. So even outside of our ring of Antarctica, there's other lands. And there are, at least right now, even on maps, like 3 exits where you can sail out, like west of South America, like southwest. If you were looking at a clock on a map, a compass, it's at about 240 degrees. Straight 9 o'clock west would be 270. So it's between 270 and straight down, but more towards horizontal. All right, let's look at this video. I want to show it a little bit to you, if you don't mind. I want to get it going, and then I'll stop it. If it's too much in the chat, stop me. But let's hear what they're doing.
Coming through with MRI scans, that's physical, tangible results and evidence.
How many views do your videos get?
I think 13 million or something.
So what are you setting up for now?
I'm setting up to do a quick mass blast based on the latest information I've got about Max. A lot of the people I've interviewed in bases over the last 20 years, very terrible things have subsequently happened to them because what they're talking about is real, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
People's lives are affected and people die.
This voice is called mind control by waves. I watched that. I was following Max.
There's a major problem as to the time of death of Max Spears. Max's mother feels that she's been stonewalled and affected.
I was on YouTube
Really finding out what happened to Max.
when he died, and they read the facts. Apparently, he had a bunch of black goo or something in his stomach. He kept puking up this black goo. And then Sarah's voice was heard there when he died. But something was weird, like the history that he was supposed to be doing and what she said he was doing did not match. And her voice was heard on the phone when they reported the death. And she was being coy and kind of weird about it. And now here she is on this show with the guy that she threatened to murder, the old man.
Manipulation, which is V2K, voice-to-skull technology. Wow, okay. So I can be communicated with in my head.
What does that feel like, hearing voices inside your head?
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. It's literally a loud voice. I mean, it's in some scientific journals described as the voice of God technology.
Phoebe,
Could you imagine if it was loud in your head?
they're in season. Phoebe, I know that they're in season. So.
Come and say hi to you, but because you're in the middle of something.
I am a mind control type. They've been giving me money for years.
Ever encountered this sort of thing before with anyone?
I hope I don't.
It's done via satellite. It's done via satellite.
Oh, okay. And then they're gathering
going
data.
It's not always done by satellite. A lot of times you have to have line of sight directly to the person, and you shoot a gun that's got like a radar dish on it. So when he says, I mean, sure, they could be beaming a frequency from the sky, but to pinpoint an individual to command them to go do something, usually you have to have a line of sight on your checking the capture. It's going good. You have to have line of sight. So not all. He's talking about across the board. It washes to big and micro. So he's right, but he's wrong in this context.
globally. I can be hooked up to a wireless network too. It's military technology.
So are you being controlled?
I can be, yeah.
Oh, okay. So who is controlling you then?
That's a $64,000 question. We have the answers to all that.
Does anybody ever see these pads in front of my face?
At its core, it will be military, but there
Tell
are
me if it's too loud, the video or my voice.
companies
Which one?
involved
Is it
as well.
good?
I thought it only exists in the
Hello?
film, but
Yeah, well, that's why they make films about it, so people
Yeah.
think that.
yeah. I'll let you
Hello?
know if it worked then.
Yeah, I'll see
I'm
you soon.
going to restart my YouTube.
Bye.
It was difficult for me to believe the things Kieran was saying. but he was saying them with such certainty.
Yeah, I'm
that
starting. I'm
questioning
not
him
seeing
felt
anybody's on
uncomfortable.
yet. I don't know how many
So
views
what's
I
on this
have.
USB?
Several frames of the
Oh,
MRI
let's
scans
go
I had
and
done
look.
from 2 machines.
So this
Let's
is your
see.
brain.
I'm streaming, right? It's live now. I've got 2 live viewers. Awesome. I hope you're still here. We're putting the things together. Let me put the movie back on.
My dentist, who's PhD level educated, he just said, look, you don't need any medical training whatsoever to see that these are foreign bodies. Okay. That's the real game changer, that probe. And you can see the fragments of another one which has been broken.
And have you ruled out every other possibility before
There we go. I
thinking
put
that
the
they might
capture
be
back together.
implants?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you able
I've
to-
used all this
to
stuff
chat
in defending
or to
myself
text anything?
in official situations. The reports I've got on both MRI scans say there are no abnormalities showing. They were trying to discredit me, saying that I needed psychiatric treatment, and they were covering it up.
What's this?
Now this is to show you the implant that was removed.
Is this something that's come from a targeted individual's body?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's the implant that was
So,
removed.
Did the targeting stop when he got this chunk of flesh removed?
Looks like I used
Do you have any plans to get your implants removed?
I've
genital
been trying.
sexual
Look
device.
at the top of my back, by the way. Can you see it?
What are we looking for?
These lumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to operate on that on myself and my ear as well. Doctors refused to operate on me, so I did it in my bathroom with scalpels and 2 mirrors.
Sounds pretty dangerous.
Well, I got a piece of wood, put it between my teeth, and I sliced them off. But take this on board. Look at my mouth. Can you see on this one? There's
Yeah.
a round cylindrical thing, and he said, "Look, that is totally unnatural. A drill does not make round cylindrical things. It looks to me as though you've got something under that filling, which again is quite possibly a microphone."
So how else do you sort of show people that these implants are real?
Well, my doctor, for instance, as I mentioned,
How are you going to
earlier,
know if they're real or not
I
if this
allowed him
guy's
to
not
palpate
pulling the
them
wig?
with his fingers at the back of my
Over
mouth.
their
I could
eyes.
have you do it now.
Yeah. Sure.
Like
You
that.
know.
Do it like that.
Okay. In the name of journalism.
Who knows if he's telling the truth?
I'm not.
Hang on.
Well, he got
You
a
need
man to
press
stick
the
his
gun.
fingers in his mouth.
Okay,
That's
okay,
what he
okay,
wanted.
So both fingers
He's
at
a
the same
pretty
time.
good shyster.
Do I understand?
Good thinking. Let's try one.
He went to work
One
that day
at a time.
thinking, I'm going to say
I'm not
something that
feeling
will make a
anything-
man stick
yeah,
his
it's
fingers in
something,
my mouth.
There's
'cause
something
I want
hard in
his
there.
fingers
Feels
in my
something
mouth.
there, definitely.
Press hard.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to hurt you.
All right.
That right there. That thing right there.
That's an implant. I will go to a surgeon and be opened up, but I need a surgeon. I'm not going to let a car mechanic, start opening me up.
Has there ever been a moment where you thought maybe this isn't
This
real?
guy's putting double meaning on his
What do you
talk.
mean?
Like, has there ever been a moment where you thought that you believed the people who said, this isn't true, I don't believe you?
Well, I don't have that problem now
Why not?
because everybody believes me.
Is that because you found a community of people who are also targeted? That you've found a group of people who believe you? Or-
Like
That's
us,
scams.
anybody here listening to
I
me.
wish I was mad. I wish I had a mental illness. I do. I wish I was psychotic. I wish I was bipolar. I wish I was anything because I
They
could
got
get
to.
treatment.
This happened
for
to
that.
me, folks. This is
For
why I'm
this, I
making the show
can't.
tonight.
That was one of the weirdest
I'm going to tell my story. It
things I've ever done in my life.
happened to
I
my
mean,
son, not to me, right in front of
I
me.
put
He just took
my
off.
index finger all the way into his mouth to feel the back of his molars.
We met another target at the
Yeah,
conference
you
called
sucker.
Fiona, who attempted to avoid targeting by keeping on the move.
He didn't
She
have
was
to
about
touch
to move
it.
again because she believed a directed energy weapon
Well, I
was
guess he
being
did feel
beamed
it.
at her friend's apartment.
Tin foil hat people wear these. It does help a little bit, but it's just short-lived.
Wow, talk about
This
tip.
is the most important thing. This cost me 1,300, but it's well worth it because it's kept me alive.
So do you carry this around with you?
Yeah, everywhere.
You must have really
everywhere.
strong muscles.
And
from
every
carrying
time at customs they say,
So I'm
"Let me
public,
open your
no
bag,
restrictions.
madam." They
Welcome,
let me
come on
say,
in.
"See you
If
again,
you're here."
lead." And they all laugh. And I tell the customs, I say, yes, I'm a targeted individual.
Give a chat.
And they say, oh, yeah, yeah.
Views 1, live viewers 2. It says I have 2
So
live
how
viewers
feet
here
is
today.
to
Is that
just
true?
be directly underneath this. Do you sleep in it?
Directly,
Maybe
yes,
it was most likely people that just came, logged on, and went after a minute. Maybe I've been adjusting my sound and
But
doing
yeah,
different
I
things.
sleep, and if I'm on the ground with this over me, I'm really good. because whatever comes through this, I can ground it. But up on the second floor here, it's difficult. Well, if I'm moving, walking through London, I'm sort of okay. Moving is the best thing, because whatever's focused at me, it has to keep trying to catch up with me. And
What are these?
the thyroid is very susceptible to being damaged by radiation. And this, again, is my...
She says she had to keep moving around her couch and around her home because the beam would find where she was at. And she had to move out of the beam. And the way she was chopping her hand, she made it look like the beam's only 10, 12 inches in diameter.
Very glamorous. My very glamorous nightwear.
She's very detailed, which makes me believe her.
Father.
She deals with this every day.
But it protects the head a lot. And occasionally I have fallen asleep on a bed without...
She's a beautiful
these,
woman.
I've been
She has
so
to put that on her
exhausted,
head.
and I wake up an hour later and it's not pretty. I try to always remember. I'm really not coming across very well. I'd be better off downstairs talking outside.
All right, let's head downstairs then.
Wouldn't you want me to sleep in a house on the second floor?
Wow, look at that door. Looks like Argentina.
Yes, I would like to, but you know, you can't function. Can I sit in the sun over there?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Once you're on the hit list, and once you know a few things, and especially if you talk, you know, it's not likely that they're going to say, "Oh, let's let Fiona off. We've had enough of somebody."
So who are they?
I keep freeing up the frozen screen for you. If you see the screen frozen, let me know.
I just know. How could I know? I just know.
I have to go every couple of minutes and restart the screen
radiation
capture.
being beamed at me.
I've tried to
and
contact
I'm
OBS
followed.
about that problem.
I saw a doctor yesterday to have this implant removed. This is only a couple of years ago. It's state-of-the-art nanotech. Because even though I would still be targeted without this, it's just not very nice having every move tracked, you know.
Can we go see the lockup that you've been staying at recently? Shall we?
It's been a great learning experience for me because I was kind of a nice middle-class girl, went to Cambridge University, and I've really been thrust into experience things that I wouldn't have ordinarily. So you have to put your life first and do what it takes. So I don't say to them I'm sleeping in the lockup. I tell them I'm just...
I'll bet she did some research at a university or got involved in some department.
But it works out at £5 something a night, so it's a cheap bed and breakfast in London.
Able to expose something. Maybe she got dangerous
So
because she knew something or she found something. She worked at Cambridge University, which is very prestigious and
I'll feel it
elite.
in a couple of minutes. So I was sleeping diagonally. There's my sleeping bag and my duvet.
If you go inside there, will you experience the targeting?
No, it's just all around here. It's not that specific. It's all around.
Really, so it's this whole area, the whole storage facility.
I get really agitated. If I'm clean, if I've had a clay bath and I'm feeling good, and I come here, I'll notice it straight away. But because I've just come out that other place, I don't notice it so much. But I won't stay around.
Wow, she locks herself in. She's got to know that she can unlock herself.
Fiona's life on the run seems to have forced her into a solitary world.
The padlock's not
Kieran,
on there
the
when
other
she's in
hand,
there
had
sleeping.
targeted friends, and he wanted me to meet one of them.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm 2.2 miles away, stuck in traffic, mate.
All right, dude, give us a ding when you get here.
Right, yeah, no worries.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Who's he?
He's another TI. I call him Magnetron, actually, because he can stick magnets to himself all over the
Oh,
place.
really?
Yeah, no, he really can. He's his entire person. You ain't going to believe this. I've only got to lock myself out.
The guy can stick
There's
magnets
quite a
to
difference
himself.
between the harassment that Kieran and I go through, especially when it comes down to the V2K.
Hey,
side of
Dubsy
stuff.
Daisy, how you
It's
doing?
everything From the
Oh, you fell asleep.
and still experience on a
Is
daily
my
basis.
voice putting you to sleep?
Very
I have it
good.
on a low setting.
How would you describe what's
Let me
happening
show
to
you. I
right
have
now?
the...
Is it?
Right this second?
Yeah.
Normal, everything's fine.
Let's see.
Sorry?
You managed to
This
get in?
one.
I went up the scaffolding and got in the back
This
kitchen
is the
window.
better
so I had to
voice,
climb up.
Betsy.
But,
I can't. It's,
Which way are we going, Kieran?
he'd turn around
sounds
and
like
look
there's
at the end,
somebody
we're in a
behind
one-way
me when I
system.
start speaking. If I have any reverb on. No, it's...
Yeah, it's a crazy
Volume.
world. It's a
I
crazy
have the
world for us
volume on
survivors.
here.
Oh, it
that's for
certainly
sure.
is indeed, yeah.
It
But
makes
it's
what
much
happened in
lower
the
when I
Second
talk
World
this
War
way.
look
This will put you more to
like a
sleep.
tin pot. Nothing.
Like a picnic.
and there was millions died. Do you know what I mean? This is a no
These guys are
torture
going
program.
to see a place
There's no
where
question.
this guy got
many times tried
hit
to get
with
me
a
to murder
beam
my
from
mother,
someone who
members
was
of my
targeting
family,
him,
to
and
take
it's
me
called
out
Voice to
from
Skull.
the society.
Let me stop
Yeah.
this video and let me just tell the listeners who are here, I've been showing movie clips and adjusting my sound to get this show started in the first little bit, but I think we've been on about 25 minutes. And here's the story. This is what happened to me. I was, it was about 10 years ago. My son stayed with me for a while, and he was 20, and he was, where were we? He just moved down there with me. He didn't have a job. He was looking, but he never found one when he was, he had a pizza place, kept calling him back to wash dishes, but he didn't want to do that. I don't blame him. There are a lot of things you can do without having to do that. Go ask somebody if you can mow their lawn before you do that. So I took him with, I was doing some bucket list stuff, and I took my guitar and I was going out and singing and seeing if there were places around Houston where you could make any money with tips and maybe eventually get invited into a restaurant. You know, that's how you get regular gigs. People see you singing in different places around town. You're busking, and they come back and they ask you to do things. That actually happened in Galveston. My son and I both, this guy behind us was going to hire us to stand in front of a clothing store on a sidewalk in Galveston and get people to get out of their cars and come over and see what was going on and bring in business. And I can't remember what he was going to pay. It wasn't worth the whole day, but then he changed his mind. We kind of talked, trying to put an idea together. And I kind of really told him, like, why get stuck to the one store on the Strand when you can walk up and down the Strand and have people tip you as you're going by, and that way you can make much more money, much more money by going to where people are and passing them instead of having them. His store was also way down the Strand, closer to the what's it called? There's a burn hospital in Galveston. It's a Shriners hospital. You know, the Masonic Shriners? They're the ones that wear the Islamic hats with the tassel dangling down. And they're the ones that, what else? They usually ride the lawnmowers in the parades. You see the Shriners come out. They're the ones that do the silly, goofy things in the parades for the kids, and they dress up like clowns, or they're riding lawnmowers or tiny ponies. You know the group I'm talking about, and a lot of times they'll have that Fez has that Islamic hat on. There's a burn hospital in Galveston. There's a man I met down there. He's a prominent figure there. He held a political office, and he's a burn victim, and I met him when I first went down there. So after that, I think he was the contact that got the stalking thing after my son and I. So this guy was talking to me one day and all about, like, wow, so you're singing here in front of the store. They try to butter you up and just get you to talk and spill everything about yourself. You know, they ask you questions, act like they're you. He took me down to the shop across the street, said, hey, you want to go get a colada or some kind of drink? Not alcoholic, but there was like a fountain drink in this store he wanted to go to. So I go in, and then I bought mine. He goes, no, I'll get it. And he paid for mine. And we were walking out. He just kept asking me questions about myself. And I already, he was sus. So I suspected that he was interviewing me for some kind of reconnaissance, like for the local lodge or a different arm or sector of secret society going on in Galveston. You know, they've got a lot down there. That's an international port. The cruise ships come in and out of there, and people with the passports are going through Galveston heavy. Sometimes other ships, it's not just Carnival Cruise or Disney cruise ships, it's people from all over are coming through that port. So they have FEMA, they have emergency management, and they also have a lot of things that go on in Galveston that need emergency. And then they have Homeland Security, which is the mothership of FEMA. FEMA's a branch in the mothership of Homeland Security. And so you'll see the SUVs like Ford Explorers, they'll drive back and forth on the Strand in Galveston, and you see they've got the insignia and the badge right on the door. It says Homeland Security. And I think it shows a flat Earth map. It's got the azimuthal equidistant map. Did you know the maps? I don't know if you're listening. Oh, you're fine, Dupsy Daisy. If you're here, you made it. Hey, you're texting now if you say you tried to stay awake for this show, but I couldn't. But you're here now. How is it you couldn't? Now, what was the story I was telling? I had the Homeland Security. So this place is covered. Like when you show up, if you're going to just go out and busk or hang around at any time on the Strand in Galveston, beware. Because those people are ready. They've got systems, spies, networking. They have an active perusing of that Strand up and down. You know, they must take shifts and turns, like, okay, it's your turn, go. And they send someone out and they do the reconnaissance loop and they go back and they keep tagging each other. And they wear purple jackets. And you constantly see the purple jackets. When I was singing, they would walk back and forth across the street. They didn't wave, but they're always by themselves. And they come out of this building, which is right in front of where the cruise ship stops. Where the people getting on and off the cruise ship, there's a red brick building. It's like, maybe it's 3 or 4 stories tall. And on the back of it, there's like a arboretum area where there's some trees. Between the back of that building and the street, or there is a small building in between that might just hold some shops and a restaurant that's on the street side. I'm not sure, or not even as big as a restaurant. Simple shop or maybe a maintenance building. Somehow it wasn't facing the street exactly, but it's got a skull and bones on it. It's got like the pirate's face with the cross and the bones, the pirate symbol. And it's right on the back of the building. That's where Homeland Security is. And it's over these tables that are outside with these yellow umbrellas where people come outside. I don't know if they have like a cafe inside and they come out and sit. And I never went over there, but I saw it from the street and I saw it from where I was singing. I could just see the building down the street with the pirate flag on it. And I knew that's where these guys in the jackets were coming in and out. So my son are down there singing and we're taking a break, or we just walked around. I think we went down and saw the cruise ship, or maybe it might have been the day we were talking to that man that was talking about singing in front of his shop. And then we were going to move and his guitar wasn't tuned. And I was saying, hey, are you ready? He's like, sure. And I said, your guitar's not even tuned. And I said, you have to be ready, before you go out there, you can't go out there. So we were having a father and son moment. And this man, one of the purple jackets, excuse me, the one in the purple jacket was standing behind me. He stopped. We would play in front of the candy shop. So people would come in and out of the candy shop and we had our guitar cases there. And this was when the voice to skull hit my son. And when he disappeared, when he came back, he was following commands from the voice to skull. So like when we went back there, it must have been the next day. We did maybe 4 or 5 days down there and they're kind of blurred together. But in the beginning, let's say we were there. We found a spot in front of the candy shop that we liked, and the candy shop owners didn't mind. But there was a policeman that kept running up and down the strip, and I remember his last name because of all the religious influence in Galveston. It's very Catholic and Jesuit, and it's very it's known to be very closed, with a lot of clubs and societies, and you're not in it. You know, it's the big, deep, a lot of deep state society ties, you know. And it's a powerful town. It's known, I mean, the word was, I grew up in Houston, and Galveston, what they said was like the mafia headquarters for a lot of activities, but reported or run by the New Orleans leadership, however that means. And if they're talking about mafia and control of illegal things, they're probably talking about the agents that we pay taxes for that are there. You know what I mean? So that's where all the what, I don't want to say the T word. That's where all of the transportation of these illegal things, animate or inanimate or lifeless, that's where it all comes from. So then, where was I at? So we're in front of the candy shop, and the guy gets really close to me, and my son and I are talking about tuning the guitar, and this guy's just entered my personal space, and it was too much. He was only like 3 feet behind me, and there was no one on the entire sidewalk for the whole block. And he just stopped walking right behind my back and just stood there listening to us like a creep. And I turned to him and I said, "Can I help you with something?" And he was so shocked that I just turned around and yelled at him. That he jumped and he stepped back and he stumbled back a couple, 2 or 3 steps, and hit beside the window. He kind of rolled off the wall of the store, and he went running off. Not running, but he was walking fast. He didn't even go through the crosswalks. He just jaywalked diagonal straight to the door of the Skull and Bones, and went and told his boss that I called him a spook. You know, I learned what spooks were when I just graduated from business school in 92, and I worked for a bio lab, and my boss his last name was Collins, and he was part of the family bloodline that you talk about, Collins. If you've ever heard of John Todd, Todd, he's on YouTube. He was the born again Christian who used to be a leader in the Illuminati from San Antonio all the way to the West Coast. And he gave people checks, and he looked over not only the goodies and the party favors and the transportation illegal stuff, but also the music industry and even the religions, probably your religion. He was going around giving checks from Rothschild in Switzerland, from I think it was Evelyn. It's pronounced Evelyn, but it's a man's name over there. His name was it Evelyn de Rothschild? Yeah, that was sending checks, and they would come in a bag, and they would be sealed with wax in an envelope or a package, and then he would open them up, and they would be all of the checks for the deals they'd made from, I guess, some special bank, probably the Bank of International Settlements, where they make special bank accounts for the elite. And he would go like to places like Salt Lake City and California and Oregon. I think, where is it? Where was it the Jehovah's Witnesses? I think so. Yeah. He had checks for them and the Mormons and some other Protestant faiths, but getting checks. You know, so all of the doctrine, I'm talking about major doctrinal established churches, not just your neighborhood church that a pastor started and wanted to make his own church. Not that kind. I mean, the actual mainline churches, and this guy was paying him. But then he became a born-again Christian, and he started exposing the Illuminati. Even though he was a bloodline member, he was actually drawn into it because of somebody that died in his family, and he was young, and he was like suddenly at the top of the board next to be in line to run this operation. So he went through a lot of training, and some of it, a lot of it was satanic. So he knew how to do the darkest rituals, put it that way. And he was a sorcerer or a witch, but he considered himself that way. He went through a big ordeal getting out and becoming this born again Christian. And I worked for his younger brother. Let's put it that way. I worked in a corporation that had a biolab that was very friendly with the Bush family. When I was there, I was told that like the CEO, like George H.W. Bush, had stayed at his house when he went to the New Hampshire primaries, and there was people on the board of our company that had come from the Senate or the White House. I mean, it was just a little bitty lab. I mean, we did less than $50 million. And I was over, I was a senior manager over Latin America at first. And after 3 years, they moved me over to Europe for a couple of years. And then I was more or less handling both of them. But I knew the dossier, the labs, they wanted to put me as a subsidiary manager over Brazil. And I did not do it. So anyway, back to the story. I'm sidelining. I'm going on a tangent. The reason I was telling you that, we talked about, were we talking about shell companies? Or spooks? Yeah, I call that guy Spooky. So he taught me all kinds of stuff. He would talk about, hey, if we're going to operate here, we should make a shell company. And I don't remember, I had a master's in business, and I don't remember ever talking about how to make a shell company. And when you're reading this stuff now, these people that are truthers exposing the Illuminati, they talk about these shell companies. But Collins was the one. I remember him and he was telling me he had an older brother, but he was so older. He was like, when my boss was like in kindergarten, his older brother was already moved out of the house. And he remembers him coming and visiting for holidays. You know, like a whole clean generation older. And he's the one that went off to San Antonio, and he was actually raised by foster parents, and his foster mother was married to Schwartz, who produced the television show Bewitched. And he was sought after. They think that's who had him assassinated after he turned into a born again Christian and started exposing them and naming her and other people in talks in all these Christian churches around California and Arizona and New Mexico, Nevada, and boom, they got him. I think he was, that's in Ohio where the family's from also. And he's from the same town. He's younger. He's at the same age appropriate. And I remember he told me his older brother, Lance, disappeared. And I just remember him sitting back in his high back leather chair going, Lance. Just kind of wondering what it'd be like if he knew him still. But he was contemplating over Lance. But John Todd's real name was Lance Collins. So what I'm telling you about was he was a spook. But it was my boss at the lab who taught me all of this stuff about Illuminati lingo. And one day I asked him why the ex-secretary of defense was on our board of directors with a small share. He was like, he was an emeritus member, but it was Cheney. And I was in a few meetings with him, but we had mostly animal vaccines and some human vaccines, but we were going to have one for H1N1 to be developed with gain of function. And I was asked to start a lab in Brazil. I was going to have to move down there with my wife and my children. And I thought that was awesome. My goal, I wasn't even 30 yet. I was like 29. Maybe I was 30. And they said, no, I was 29. I was going to run to Brazil for a level 4 biolab, build the lab in Brazil as a wholly owned subsidiary, hire the local talent to grow the virus. I would hire pathologists and people that have lab, microbiologists, a couple of microbiologists and a pathologist and some henchmen. and get going. And my wife refused to get a passport, and she didn't want to take the children down there to live in Brazil. But if she would have known, we would have lived in fantastic neighborhoods with drivers and maids and beautiful gardens and pools and places to go and luxury out to yang yang. And even if it didn't last forever, just to go do it would have been awesome. So I learned a lot about the way things work in the real world with people that are in the elite. I'll discuss later, if you want me to, what my friend, the director of the veterinary pharma division, went to the CEO banker's house and saw in his study, he had a bunch of rifles and they went on hunting parties. He was talking to him he showed the heat sensing radar on his hundreds, if not 1,000 acres. He owned 2 mountains in his state, and he was very important. Friend of HW, stayed at his house while attending the primary elections, which is, it's important because on election day, everybody kind of looks to the east, who voted first and what does the spread look like. So you want to win New Hampshire. It's very strategic. And HW stayed at one of his homes that he had on a cul-de-sac on one of his mountains. And then my director stayed there. And he said he stayed in the same house that Barbara and HW, is what the CEO Ted told him. And really important people. But that's how I learned what a spook was. It just came out of my mouth when the guy was getting close behind me when I was with my son. I just said, "Can I help you with something spooky?" And he rolled. But I kept thinking about that, like, man, he went right back in that FEMA Homeland Security office, and he's telling his boss, he just called me a spook. What does that imply? You know, because if someone that quickly just reacts and calls you a spook, that says crazy things on all kinds of levels. Like, first of all, he knows the word spook and he used it. He knows who we are, but it came out of him so fast. It's like, this man comes from the business. Like, he's worked with it or he knows something about it, because, you know what I mean? It would just imply a lot of things to give you a depth and a flavor and a smell of who you're talking to. Just throw that out there and change it to spooky. You know, I modified the word. Can I help you, spooky? So they must have thought. I'm sure they looked up they knew who I was, because I drove down there and parked my car, and they've got cameras everywhere in town. So all they had to do was rewind and fast forward to when I came and left, find out which car was mine and read their license plate, or wait till I came back the next day. But I think it was the man that had been burned down there that was the one that kind of turned me over to the lodge. Or I was like, I've been in another situation in another city where I lived it was in McKinney, Texas. And just walking around, you know, you get the feeling. You kind of know if you know about what the structure is and the real power centers in the world, and how the secret societies are so strong and controlling of all the churches and businesses and everything you can think of. And what most people don't think of is, no, you're crazy. It's not true. But when you get into the details, you see, like the latest Epstein file release, which is ridiculous. They should have all been released at the very beginning. And then, anyway, so I have to keep myself from going on tangents on this thing. But I've got stories for days, and they're deeply fascinating. And my friend calls me the Forrest Gump of conspiracy, because I either know the people directly, or I've taken pictures with them and had meetings with them. People from the White House, people that were the guy that owned that hunting place on the mountains. He bought me my first Ping Zing golf club set that I got for selling the most vaccines in Latin America over the Indian rep and the Asian rep. and the European rep. Then in the company, the European rep got fired, and I went in there and I said, can I take over Europe? I had a lot of fun traveling around Europe. I don't care about the business, but I took trains and it was my job to go visit distributors all over Europe. So I just got on. I started flying until they said, why are you flying? We've got great trains. Use the train. But, so back to the story. So he goes walking off, and then my son and I, we take off. But the thing was, when we got there, it was either the first day or the second day, my son ran off. I don't know how. I never saw him. I went into the bathroom, or he was out, and he said he was going to go. And when I came back, he was gone, and I waited. It was like half an hour, 45 minutes, and he came strolling back up from where the cruise ship was. And I said, hey, where have you been? He just shrugged. He's like, I don't know, just walking around. And I thought, looking back, I think now, okay, I was all freaked out, but he could have been telling the truth, right? And so then it was the very next day. Oh, then that's when we had like the home security people hanging around and the guy, and I scared him off and all that. Or no. I didn't do that till the next day. Let's say I had the guy that had the burns, and the guy that was checking me out, getting all my details, trying to figure out who I am and what I was doing there. Somehow I got turned over to the stalker team, but it was Homeland Security level, actual using listening devices. So my son disappears, comes back. We get started. We start singing. And we would just sing out in front of the candy shop for a couple hours. Then we'd start walking and move around. You're not allowed to use a tip jar, but you can open your guitar case and lay it on the ground. But they really don't want you there. So, get your jollies and get some tips and get out of there and leave. They do not want you there. And in fact, it's like no one's on the strip doing anything. The security's so tight. It's like a minimum security prison, medium. So, yeah, my son, we got there, we parked, and there was a big Disney cruise ship. It's so big, it's towering over the buildings on the street with the canopies where we're staying. I mean, you walk in between buildings and you see the Disney cruise ship over on the Strand, which is a block away from the water. So we went there and we took some pictures. I took a picture of him. He took a picture of me with our guitars on our back. And we started walking back toward the Strand. And when we passed the doorway on the Pirate building, where Homeland Security is, we walked past it, and I think we got about 30 feet past it, 30, 40 feet. And suddenly, my son and I are talking. We both have our guitars on our shoulders. And he suddenly goes, and he takes off. He takes off and starts running, not running, but walking backwards from where we just came. And he just turns around 180 and just starts walking back. It was that abrupt. We're talking, and suddenly he just turned around and started walking the opposite direction. And he walked right up. This man popped out of the door. It's metallic, like the back door of a restaurant. It was one of those doors. It wasn't the main entrance, but it did have a canopy over a yellow canopy. And this guy right there, he popped out and walked to the curb, and my son met him at the curb, and they started talking. It was like being in a movie. I'm like, what the hell? Because, I'm on the right. He was on the left, and he was next to the street. We were walking down the sidewalk, and I was on the right. So, like his left foot was near the curb, but it was kind of a wide curb, at least, it was probably a 12-foot wide curb to grass or buildings, 12, 14 feet. Now that'd be small. It was at least like 15 feet. So we're walking, and suddenly he turns around and he drops his guitar off his shoulder also. The bag is in a soft bag with the pads in it. And he just like slips it off his shoulder and drops it on the sidewalk and turns around and starts walking back. And right when that guy pops out the door, they both go toward the curb, and my son just starts talking to him. And the guy's like, here's my son's head. And he's like, you can tell he's talking to him, but I can't hear him because I'm 30 feet away. And all I did was turn around. And my son just marched over there and starts talking in this guy's ear. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And I know my son's never been there. He's never been to Galveston before in his life. It's just something that wasn't on our list. And suddenly he's talking to a Homeland Security dude and came out in his purple jacket and everything. I think he was the boss or the director because he was running the other guys. He looked like a Fed, spook for life. Looked like, looked like he was above the CSI level. But he was in the future, what do they call the crimes? Yeah. So he just turned around and I go, hey. And I called my son's name, and my son turned around from talking to the man and just looked at me. He stared at me, and then he turned back around. And I said, hey. I said, you dropped your guitar. What are you doing? Who's that? And that man just turned around to the left. He spun around, did a 180, and he walked back in the building. And my son, without looking back at the man, just goes, oh, hey, look, there's my dad over there. He's calling me. Oh, hey, Dad. And he starts walking to me, and he's out of it, I can tell. So weird, and it made me angry. Like, what is this guy doing to my son? That's my baby. So he goes back walking to me, and he looks at me, and he's talking, and I point down to the ground. I said, are you going to get your guitar? He goes, oh, yeah. So he picks up the guitar, puts it on, and we start walking to the candy shop. And I asked him, I said, what was that? Who was that you were talking to? And he just, it's like I'm asking him questions he can't think of the answer to. And so I said, did you know that man that came out of the building? And he goes, no. I said, well, why did you turn around and put your guitar on the ground and go walk back to where we were before and talk to him? And he couldn't, he's like, I don't know. So then we were trying to figure it out, and we were talking about it for a while, but he wasn't coming out of it. There were some things that were hidden or repressed in his memory. So that night, earlier that day, I had talked about, I was telling my son all kinds of stuff about the deep state, open, the church stuff, with where the assassins are trained and where they come from and how the structure is made over in the, is it the Mediterranean? Over in the southeastern Mediterranean country that looks like a boot on a map with a long heel, tall heel. That's where a lot of activity was going on. But yeah, that kind of scared me. So when he walked off and he saw that man and came back and we went back to the candy shop, I thought it might be Voice to Skull. I had just seen it like a month before that occurrence with my son. I had been watching it on YouTube, and I saw the inventor who said that when he was transmitting frequencies in and out of people to see if he could either read their thoughts or get them to say something, he would actually put a transmitter aiming at their head at 40 to 80 hertz. He said the jelly in our heads just resonates like with all the fluid, it all together like a soup just resonates, a single resonance that you can go right in. It's like being in a swimming pool and hearing people talk or yell underwater. You ever hear that? The sounds like what dolphins hear. If you have the right ear set up, you can hear right through water pretty cleanly. So I think that's what they're doing. It's a similar technology, but they read impulses in your brain, and somehow they know what you're thinking exactly. They can read your thoughts somewhat. They can fake it pretty well, put it that way. So we got home at night, my son and I, and we were eating some cookies. And again, I was shaking my head and I was saying, man, that's just really weird what we saw, the way that guy just got you to talk. Like, there's got to be some kind of mind control technology they're using to get you to, somehow they talk to you somewhere, you talked to someone or said something, and somehow they got enough information to trigger you. But I think it has to be line of sight. So there has to either be a gun at the top of the building, maybe that was mounted above us that was doing it, or maybe there might have been a guy down the street behind a dumpster, or maybe their technology works within a local area, like kind of like Bluetooth. And, it probably has the distance of about Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, maybe longer than Bluetooth, up to like a strong Wi-Fi. Are you there, Dubsy Daisy? Are you hearing it fine? So what I did, this is only half the story. So then what I did, my son, here's the crucial point. This is what freaked me out, how I knew it was bad. As we were talking about it, I was thinking, like, what would they need? Like, they know who I am. They can read the license plate. I've given enough information to the guy who was on the city council, ex-city council, who was the burn guy, and the other people I talked to. They can kind of piece my life together from what I've told someone insider, elite, that was down there. That guy was also a millionaire, by the way. He had a lot of money. Successful. I can't remember his business. Plus, I think he got a settlement for the burn by either, it was a safety problem with the builder or somebody did something. There was liability. And my son said, yeah, they want a token. And what was the other thing he said? A sign. Yeah, he said they want to know what you're doing there, and they want a token and a sign. I just looked at him. I said, what? Or no, I didn't even say what. I just was like, real. I just immediately, I'm trained to, when I get shocked, I just say something cool. So I just said, oh, really? Yeah, probably. On the inside, I'm going, oh my God. It's like when my ex-wife tried to sabotage our bankruptcy. And the attorney said, don't mention the loan from your dad for the boat. We go, okay. And we went to the bankruptcy court and we were at the judge to get our final hammer on it. And the judge said, is there anything else? It's pretty good. It seems clear to me you're getting the bankruptcy. And she's about to hit the hammer, the mallet, and my wife goes, what about the loan from your dad for the boat? Psycho. So I'm talking about what I did. If you've ever seen a TENS, have you ever seen these? This is a device with, these pads you put on your body, and you have two of them stuck together. And then you have the battery unit right here. And you turn it on, the top flips open, it's got some knobs. And if you have a probe plugged in, like, you can see the screen running there. If it picks it up, there you go. See, I think that's mu. That's the pulse width, 33 hertz. That's at 33 hertz. Look, guys, I'm putting out master numbers here. 33 hertz for 30 minutes. So this will go, that's the frequency that it will give you, 33 hertz. If you put those pads on you, the red one and the black one. This is how I stopped voice to skull. It's called a TENS, TENS. It has something to do with transdermal, through your skin, electricity, neurostimulator system, electrical neurostimulator. That's the ENS, TEN, transdermal electric. neurostimulator, TNS. So this is it. I'm having trouble with the background. I'm trying to hold it there so you can see. This brand on this one, it just says twin stem. If you look up a twin stem, this one's made for having 2 wires. See, I've got one coming out the top. This one plugs in there, and that's the plug for the stickies. You got to have it open. Oh no, it doesn't have to be open to plug it in. So you just put it right there. It's got a regular plug. There it goes. It's not a regular plug. It's one of those concave plugs that has a hole in the end. Right there. But what does that matter? So you put it on. You can stimulate 2 different parts of your bodies. It would have to be the same frequency and pulse width. And the pulse width uses the mu symbol, which is looks like the letter U in cursive. But it's diminutive. It's small. That's mu or moon. So this device is how I stopped the tens. What I did is I knew that I just watched it on YouTube, the talk from this guy who invented the voice to skull. And he said, the jelly in your head is from 40 to 80 hertz. So I thought, if you dominate during stimulation, you can dominate 80 hertz by stimulating at 90 hertz, let's say. When you start to mix the waves together and jam it, it's easier to jam the wave that you're jamming if you have a higher frequency wave. You just kind of, and more amplitude and a better pulse width. You just dominate it and squash it so it's not even perceivable. And this, you put the pads on, like this is the red lead, and this is the black lead. See, I've got red and black. So you put them on you. But what I did was I thought, what's the bony structure in your body? And right where your clavicle meets your shoulder, where your bone sticks out, right there. I put the pads on him right there over his clavicle bones. And I set it to 99. And I turned it up to where he could feel it. And I said, let's turn it down just below to where you can't feel it. And I did that. And then we went out and sang on the Strand. And that day, nobody touched him. And in fact, I had a swarm of FEMA agents coming out of the building, Homeland Security. And there was like 3 guys over there, and they were walking towards each other, and they stopped, started chatting. And then another one walked up, and then I had 3 of them right in front of me across the street from the candy shop. And another one walking up. No, the way toward the beach, we came walking up this way from the south at me. And I'm thinking, there's 4 Homeland Security agents in sight, and 3 of them in front of me, and 1 walking up the sidewalk that I'm on right now coming at me. And my son is still there singing with me, and he hasn't walked off. Whereas like the day before, he disappeared again. The first time we went down there, and I thought, well, he just took off and wanted to explore on his own for an hour. But the next day he disappeared, I think twice. He just kept, he would either say, I don't know what he did. Like it was if I went to the restroom, or it wasn't that blatant, but it was like when we got there, he would just disappear. I'd be talking to a person that tipped us, or somebody say, hey, where are you from? Or stuff. Look around, thought my son went in the candy store, but he's gone. And I think they nabbed him in the candy store or something, but he knew how to ask me for a token, which is, I was initiated in the Mormon temple. And when you go through the veil, it's similar to a Masonic ceremony. Yeah, 5G and Starlink. The scary thing is, you're talking about the jelly in the head. I remember the inventor of this voice to skull. I saw this video when he was giving a talk in a Congress, and it was like 10 years ago. And he's told about how he thought of it, and he said the frequency goes in, the vibration in the skull is about 40 to 80 hertz. That's pretty easy to replicate. You can get 40 to 80 hertz on this tens. You can put the pads on you and at 40 to 80 hertz on this thing. So this is why I'm saying you can jam it. If you put this one on 99 and put it on your clavicle, so you're vibrating your whole skeletal system, which all the tissue rests on. If you set a frequency, you don't have to feel it, but as long as it's on, your cells are sensing it, but even though you don't, and you just start to dominate all of the rhythms, circadian rhythms, and anything you've got going on in your body will start to fall in line with this sine wave of the 99 hertz that's put in there. And then any of the sub programs or encoded things to do will either be muted or not noticed or may not occur, like them telling you to do something bad. Maybe if they've got a mind controlled sex kitten or an assassin man or both, and all they have to do is say the word greyhound or some obscure word, and they go under and they do their job that they've been trained to do secretly, that they even don't remember. They might not even know that they're trained to do what they did, like Jackie when JFK was killed. And yeah, so I put the pads on him. We went back, and so he had the pads on him the whole time. And the day before, whereas he had disappeared, and that night when we were eating dinner and talking about it, he said, yeah, they want a token and they want to know why you're there, singing you're not out working in your career. So they knew about my career, and I've been all over the world, and I knew a lot of bosses. And so it was an odd thing. It was like a in-your-face direct insult to the people in the government down there that were trying to just sweep me under the rug or use my son to get information out of me. Basically, what they wanted to know is, who the hell are you? Why are you sticking around? We've got all this security. We're Homeland Security, and we've got all these agents and people in the secret lodge that can go out and start stalking you. And we're all in cahoots, and we can use this. And we can use. What are you doing? Just right in the middle of the frog pot, boiling yourself. And I was just doing it for fun, but they just made it too obvious, and it was scary that the third day or the fourth day when my son was out there and he wasn't responding to their calls. I think what they'd done is they had groomed him or set him up to receive their call. And when I put that 99 hertz on there and was buzzing his skeleton all day, it interrupted their game, whatever they were doing. And I have no idea what they were doing, but I could tell that it was something because they were swarming in front of us, and one was walking up at us. And I thought, oh my God, they're coming after us. I was telling my son, I'm like, they're pissed off today because they can't get through to you. And my son was laughing. I said, I think it's working, whatever I did to you. You've still got it on, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. They're all looking at me like, what the hell did you do? We can't get through to your son. They knew something was up, and they knew that I had controlled it, and they were wondering, like, who is this man with his son? He just came here and disabled our voice to skull. What the, this is danger. This is red alert. This should go to the White House. This should go to the president's desk. There's an individual in the country that can shut off voice to skull. We can't mind control him. He literally, shut it down, and we're trying to contact a victim that we've already trained, and he's not responding. And that's, we don't have that. They always respond. And it's like the kids on a different frequency or something. We can't even get through. So they probably named the problem right there, and they're guessing the solution. But they were literally swarming around, and I think that's when the guy got close to me, and I go, can I help you with something spooky? And that's what it was. It was the day that he was wearing the pads, and they wanted to know what we were talking about. they needed something to go by because all they had was maybe some history on me and from my license plate on my car, but they weren't actually hearing me talk and to see. You can tell a lot about a person or put you in the right direction for research if you just listen to them for a minute or two. And to have the one guy just right there on the sidewalk between me and the candy shop door, he was closer to me than close to the door, and he was just bent over, just listening to me talking to my son, and my son was looking at him. And when I just turned and hey, so anyway, I fronted the guy, called him a spook, and then I jammed their voice to skull unit. So that's how you do it. But yeah. So can you imagine that one day my son is just walking with me and suddenly drops his guitar and goes off walking, talking to some stranger in a Homeland Security jacket 30 feet from me. I felt so out of control. I was mad. Like, how can they have technology that rips my son away right in the middle of a conversation with him? He just turned around 180 and walked back to where we came from over by the fire hydrant and started talking to a stranger with a Homeland Security jacket on. And I mean, literally, like right in front of me, like they knew who I was and did that. You realize that? That was a front. What do you call it? That was an identifier. That was like, hey, we know who you are. You know who we are. Bam. Your move. You know. So it was a pretty aggressive front that they did. Um, but the thing was, I think I sort of won. It never came to anything illegal or any arrest. There was no violence or anything, but I foiled their plot. You know, they were going to have my son be one of their mind slaves. Who knows? They might have got him to come back and start living there and working for them forever. And when I didn't even know it, but they could have done more than just to him than they did when he was with me. If he was ever, like urged to go back down there. But I think the control has to be within certain tower range for the most part. And if it's running because somebody who has the tower um, maybe also controls the next tower, that would have to be like mafia controlled or closed lodge controlled towers. You never think of that. I bet if you started to look through the records of people who have any personal corporate gain in towers or spaces where towers are put up, or any, like if you own property and you have some businesses and they come in and they just put 5G all over the place, do you have to report to them? There has to be something compensated because of energy and space and just rights that you're giving up to them. So don't they have I'm sure they have a branch with all of the maintenance and management of those little details. And so Galveston is a city that has a city council. Let's say if it has 13 seats, it's like these people all know each other and they play the game tightly. And when one votes, everybody votes. And it's all the same. And they know what's going on beforehand before they vote. But it would have to be in special cases where there would be a rift. But it would have to be over something major where tenets and oaths and promises of the lodge itself were on the line. But so that was Galveston. So how'd you like that? So to make the quick summary of the story, took my son down to Galveston. He disappeared for a while, sightseeing, comes back. We noticed a bunch of Homeland Security agents around, and then I was at home with him, wondering why did they Yeah, no, see, they never got through to me. But it's funny how I'm missing pieces of it. But I know I was trying to wonder what made me know that the tens would work. I think I already told you, but I don't know what it was by looking at them. I think I was just observing them up and down the street. That even when there were no people around, these guys, and they would always be in khaki pants. All the men that I saw, except for the teenagers, that were doing an art exhibit, as a family or some kind of play or scene, or it was dramatic. It was drama. So I don't know what their costumes were, if they actually dressed the way they were dressed, but there wasn't hardly anybody on the street. And these people, it was just either Homeland or FEMA people. And I walked around, and I had I still have the sound file. What am I talking about? I kind of blanked out for a second there. It's getting late. So that's the story, folks. Voice to skull. My son just yanked and turned around, went back and talked to the agent right in front of me, 30 feet. And I actually ran back and I go, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" And the man just like turned. I was within arm reach of him, and he just turned away, put his back to me, and walked back into the door on the side of the building where the Skull and Bones pirate cross was on the back of the building. It was right in front of the cruise ship. The cruise ship had left, but we're right in front of the pier where people get on and off of the boat. And this is the first building when you cross the street in the crosswalk. Right there, red brick building. And that guy came out the side door. I've noticed in the summertime, there's the awnings on that building. They have yellow awnings over that side door. I've even went back and I took if you go on the website, I think it was the Galveston Island Strand, Galveston. You go look at pictures of the Strand, you'll see the yellow awnings, and there's a door. I even have a video. If you look on my channel here, I have a video about this, V2K, and you can watch the video. I did not have my son there then when I made that video, but I talk about basically the same things I was talking about now. I don't know how many of you knew about these technologies that the government has. There are different types. Not only do you hear voices in your head I think that has to be a direct line of sight unit, or like I said, kind of close locally to you. But have you ever heard of Havana syndrome? That was not necessarily hearing. Oh, voice to skull was successful in Iraq in the war. Do you remember? If I remember, I was old enough. I was in my early 40s, but they went to a town and they were attacked by over 200 Iraqi soldiers, and they had run out of ammunition, and they were waiting for backups, or they were going to take the deal, with the Americans and be captured. And they decided to give their guns to the Americans. So they just came over and turned in all of their guns and turned themselves over. And they had so many people to arrest that they ran out of zip ties to use as handcuffs. So, yeah, they ran out of zip ties because so many people were volunteering to be captured of the Iraqis. And it was because Allah had told them to in their heads. And when you ask any of them, they said, they were just out there doing what they thought. And then suddenly, God didn't want them to fight in the war anymore or get rid of that. It was weird. So there is control. It is real. I've seen it. Just the fact that my son said something at home when he used the word token and other things that referred to someone who worked at the Veil or knew usually in most, either the Masonic Lodge or I think even the Church of Satan and other organizations that wear aprons. You see a lot of basketball players, especially a lot of star athletes, when they get involved with branding, and they go to parties where the top brass is of these companies, of the products that they endorse. And then they find out, hey, they're more like they are. They like to party. And then they find out that they have clubs. And you wind up, you don't want to be at that club party on the night where they're doing the dark stuff. And if you are, you're either being let into the circle with them or you're the victim. So, but, an attack on the broad people, they did it in Havana, Cuba. Let's see. Havana syndrome, also known as anomalous health incidents, AHIs, is a disputed medical condition starting in 2016 in about a dozen overseas locations. U.S. and Canadian government officials and their families reported symptoms associated with a perceived localized loud sound. The symptoms lasted for months and included disabling cognitive problems, balance problems, dizziness, insomnia, headaches. Havana syndrome is not officially recognized as a disease by the medical community. That's kind of weird. Rare. They're not hearing exact words in their mind, but they're just feeling gross and yucky. And it's all because of the syndrome. Let's read on lower and see what there is on the more dastardly parts. Number of government, non-government agencies have conducted investigation to the AHIs, including State Department, University of Pennsylvania, Behavioral Analysis Unit, Centers for Disease Control, Department of Defense, Central Intelligence, National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, Cuban Academy of Sciences, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the National Institutes of Health. Oh, there's Fauci's organization. Several new organizations are conducting it. So everybody is onto this thing. It did not say Homeland Security, though. Official investigations have provided various theories on the cause of AHA, but there is no consensus. Theories include directed energy weapons, psychological and social causes, and toxic chemicals. However, no cause has been established. The syndrome, a variety of symptoms are associated with Havana syndrome, including dizziness, headaches, pain, and cognitive problems. Havana syndrome is not a disease recognized by the International Classification of Diseases Diagnostic Manual. Most of the affected individuals reported an acute onset of neurological symptoms associated with the perceived localized loud sounds such as screeching, chirping, clicking, piercing noises. 2/3 reported visual disturbances such as blurred vision and sensitivity to light. More than half reported intense pressure or vibration in the head, ear pain, diffuse head pain, and cognitive problems such as forgetfulness and poor concentration. Tinnitus, that's the ringing in the ears, tinnitus, and hearing loss occurred in 1/3 of cases. And dizziness is unsteady gait affected 1/4. Dizziness or unsteady gait. Yeah, what if you kind of walked around like you were drunk all the time? You say, I've got Havana syndrome. Oh, good. So, spaced out for a second there. Hold on. Let's go back. Who is on there? Let's see. Maybe the 5G was going to be good or Starlink. Probably both. It's amazing the government has this power. They say they can read your thoughts. They can actually put influences around you. Let's say they're in control of the sound you're hearing from a radio in a room you're in, what's on the screen, and the people that come up and talk to you. Kind of like the Truman Show. Every single input that's going into your mind, they can control. And that means then they read the vibrations of whatever your mind is doing. And from that, they try to get the influences or match the numbers with other people that will say out loud what they're thinking to kind of pattern the behavior and recognize But the man that was explaining that said that they're looking at layers of 10,000 iterations of what I just said stacked on top of each other, all running simultaneously. So it's a real difficult problem to solve. Being able to match the blips and clicks and bangs of what's going on in someone's brain with a picture or a situation, a thought, or a memory, or even to see what the person is doing. It's not that easy. And now what they're doing is they can do the words in the head, but I asked my son what happened to him. Like, did he hear someone say, "Hey, turn around, drop the guitar, I need to talk to you"? And what they do, that's what he did. He just, whoop, right in the middle of a sentence I was saying, talking to him, and zoop, he's gone. But when he went walking right up to that man, I go, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I just started walking real fast towards him, and the guy just ditched and walked back into the side door. And then my son that night said, yeah, they probably want a token and want to know why you're here and not working in your career job. So they already did some digging, some research on me in the federal government. But that was kind of a weird thing. So that was my story about how the spook ran off and told the boss, and then the boss turned up the heat. They got my son in and programmed him to get some information out of me. Like, he was supposed to be a spy. So my son was asking me things at home, like, that's right. So he was asking me about temple stuff, and there's a first token of the priesthoods, and a second, and a third, and a fourth. But you're shown what they are, you're shown what they represent, and then you're asked to repeat that what was sent was also. I don't know how I can describe it without, spilling the beans, but I could say, what the heck, I might as well say it. But this is recorded and on the internet forever, so I don't want to say. I took an oath to never reveal these signs and tokens, or the grips and the handshakes. But it's funny because everybody knows them when you look like on YouTube, and everybody's talking about everybody knows that even in movies, they do the sign on the against the larynx there with the sharp object, and then when they move the thumb across, they go make that sound. Like, that's what it sounds like when you cut a round part underneath your head, above your shoulders. Cylindrical part of your body starts with a TH and then ROAT. But that's the first step. So if you learn, let's say they tell you the first step is that all natives of this particular animal species are created by this God figure. It could be Jehovah, or in an ancient sense of the real name is Yahusha or Yahusha. I think that's what it is. I like how people on their telephones, or when they're talking to you, they go, Ashikamaka Kamikalate, that's his real name. And people have like 5 different ways that they've read and researched that should be the Lord or the Messiah's name. But then each one has a different way of pronouncing it. So there's sounds like 20 different things going on. When they say the name of who is Jesus, if he has a different name, and they say, oh no, it was Yahuwah, it was Yahisha, Yahuwah Shemamalek, which actually means the great one, praise to him be, just very honorable, sophisticated titles. And in English, especially in America, we relax all the roots and just say, hey man, boom, there's my name, that's it, spell it, cut through. We're in America, we're actually always saying, let's just cut through the bullcrap, lay the news to me straight, tell me what you're doing, black and white. we don't have the room with technology right now, especially when it can read your mind. You don't need advertising as much if you can just get a little kid and get him to say something or show him. But I don't know. It has to be him. So scary. What time is it? 2:30. What are positive aspects of V2K? Can it better humanity? Hello, y'all. How you doing today? Hey there. How are you? Let's see. Oh, look, we got Arno. Maybe that's what 5G is going to be good at, or probably both. Hello, y'all. How you doing today? Hey, thanks for coming in. You got Elgor Golorenzo, Gio Lorenzo, Giorgio Lorenzo, El Giorgio Lorenzo dos Santos. Is that Portuguese? Eu falo português também. Eu tenho muito tempo lá no Brasil, trabalhando. Yeah. What are the positive aspects of V2K? I don't know. What they did, like they got the soldiers in Iraq to turn in their weapons. So there were like 1,000 soldiers that just turned in their guns and said, God told us to surrender. That was what we have to do. And they totally honor anything that God tells them. I can't really see that as being a positive aspect just because you used it to win a battle. What are you going to use it for day to day on a 24-hour period, 7 days a week? That could be positive. What could be positive? Like, let's say in a business transaction, let's say you're having a show, you do a comedy show, and you're at the door, you're selling tickets, and you want to sell more tickets. And when people come in, they buy them online, and they show up, and you scan the QR code that they got, and you let them in. Okay, now there's the business model. How are you going to use V2K to improve that? You could, it's not going to help you to scan the person and know what's going on in their head just for them to walk through the door and pay the ticket, right? Unless maybe you would trolling people to look for certain traits that you're looking at for people. But that would be stalking and some of the bigger words escape my mind right now. So if it was during the day and we were at full energy peak, I would have a whole different vocabulary. But positive benefit, I can't really think of what. You know, even if you used it and it was positive and it did something that was great for the company, it could be misused by anyone. You'd have to come up with something really perfect to have a positive aspect on humanity. Yeah, that's pretty hard. So anyway, I was going to show you some other things that they do. This guy. This guy says he's let's see. This guy got this. He worked at companies that are in the crux of the AI technology, and he's being a whistleblower. Brian 2, remote neural monitoring versus remote neural manipulation. Brian 2, remote control. So I don't know did he work in it and he was the victim? I think that's what happened because he knows all about it. We lost badly. You know, really the game's over. If they're already doing to this and they're reading our brains and controlling us, then the game is over. So when it says game, let me adjust the film for you. There you go. There's the scene. Privacy is now a privilege. Nobody's taking responsibility for anything. You see, there are rights and then there are privileges and responsibilities. Privacy is now a privilege. Privacy is now a privilege. Privacy is something that is due to a person by a government, law, tradition, or nature. Privilege, a special benefit, exemption, or immunity for people of special class. Responsibility, a burden of obligation, being accountable with one's power. Reign of vicegerent premiered. Vicegerent. Gerent means like management. Vice management. No privacy because everything you do online. It's weird. I started to watch this video earlier when I was preparing for the show, and then I found out that my mouse started moving like someone had a hold of my computer. And I quickly shut it down. And I haven't had that problem. But this was it's maybe unrelated. I just happened to be watching this video when it happened. If people were to use this in a positive way, the V2K technology, you could pay for a service to give you positive affirmations every day and say, hey, you're doing good. You're happy. You are really feeling happy today. You just did a great thing. You're having really positive thoughts. Today is a great day. You woke up the right way and on the right side of the bed. I was going to piss in your coffee and decided not to. Your cornflakes, too. Let me redo the capture.
Because, they can force the victim to speak or act, but that's not how the technology is designed to work.
Do you hear it?
And they often do force the victim to engage in undesirable or unwanted actions or verbal sequences or visual sequences. The system can overpower your impulses. It can use torture and trauma to disrupt your continuity of thought or erase short-term memory so that you cannot think straight, so that you make mistakes. That's how they set you up. But I want to talk about
they set you up.
About the technology, and they don't force you. Now, they don't force you to do anything. Now, they can. The system can force you by overpowering your impulses. But that doesn't help further their technology. Unless they're trying to set the victim up, it doesn't really, or force the victim into some type of action or access sequence to kill, set up and frame, or mind hobble the victim. It really doesn't help their technology. So, people want to know, well, how can they force me to do things against my will? Well, in order to understand that, you have to understand the difference between remote neural monitoring and remote neural manipulation. People often say, remote neural monitoring and mind control, they often equate the two together. They're not the same at all. Remote neural monitoring is not mind control. Remote neural manipulation is mind control. Okay, big difference. Remote neural monitoring is actually an actual military defense system using satellite tower-based platforms, mobile-based platforms, by way of they're basically relay devices. These tower satellites and mobile platforms are relay devices. These, by electro-optics, virtual interfaces, and so forth. Brain-to-computer interface, electronic brain-to-brain interface.
Brain to brain.
This is how the technology is designed to work, and they utilize microwaves. It's easier to understand if you think of laser imaging and tracking. Okay, those type of systems. Basically, they're using remote neural monitoring is designed to image and measure and transmit brain and neural activity.
This guy knows a lot about it. Can you hear it all?
So what happens is, a computer multiplexer routes the signal to a tower, satellite, or mobile platform. It's all done remotely, okay? That's why my ears are ringing. My head and ears is in constant pulsating pain 24 hours a day, every day, okay, for many, many years. Since I was
that would be really terrible.
Trauma-based mind control in 2011.
You had a ringing and a buzzing in your ear every day, all day long. This guy really talks fast and he kind of rambles all the. I listened to the 30 minutes of it, and I'd picked a spot around 9 minutes.
Neurotransmitters of the victim's brain and begins to speak to and decode those neurotransmitters after it's activated. It can be activated in nanotechnology from thousands of miles away using a process called directed energy flash and photons. Okay, they illumine the brain of the victim with photons that read the return training signal. That's how the technology can be activated in a specific target's brain. Okay, so while everyone is infected, not everyone's nanotech and everyone's brain is activated. Okay, so that's the simple definition. That's the simple definition of how the technology is designed to work. Now, again, it's much more complicated than that. So this supercomputer that's targeting the victim is
He's talking more about malaise and just sending out sickening vibes and power to make people hurt and their ears ring and feel sick and torture them. But they're not necessarily putting the words in their mind. And that's the one I wanted to talk about, where they actually told my son, turn around, talk to me. Literally, he just, and at the same time, not only was he being told what to do, but he went into a stupor where it's like he didn't know where he was. He didn't realize he left his guitar on the ground. I asked him, I pointed down, I said, you going to pick up your guitar? And he looked down like, who put that there? It was weird. I was so mad, but I didn't know what to do. It was so unusual. I didn't know what to be mad at or what for. It was just like that man had just kidnapped my son or something. It felt just really terrified and scared and furious at the same time at this man. And then when I walked over there, he just turned and went back into the building. And like I said, just left my son in a stupor. You gonna pick up your guitar? He picked it up, and then we walked back to the candy shop, and it was over. But then, if it wouldn't have been that night when I was talking about it, reflecting upon the day, and I said, "Wow!" And that guy that came out of that building, I said, "What was he doing? Do you know him?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, how come when you and I were talking, walking back toward the candy shop, we were almost at the corner where the crosswalk was, and you suddenly just slipped the guitar off your shoulder on the ground, turn around and walk back way back there and just start talking to this man right in front of me. I go, hey. And I said, you didn't turn around at first. I yelled again. And then you turned around. You looked at me like, oh, there's my dad over there. Like he was going to wave or something. And this man's talking to him. And I'm like, hey, I think he had time to tell him, we need a token from this guy, and we need to know why he's here and not working in his career. So when he told my son he needed a token, that meant that they were going to send people out the next day, and they were going to introduce themselves to me and go through a kind of a check process where I had to say the right things and then give them the grasp or the right handshake or whatever you call it. Handshake, we call it a token, or depends on what it's for in the religion. There are a lot of things. If you've been set apart to do something and you've got a token, then boom, it's very high society. And I don't mean that in a glam way. I mean, in the dark societies, it's very high in the secrets. To know that I had a man give me the absolute highest degree, and it was a grasp that I've seen somewhere, maybe sketched on a internet website or something I heard about, and never actually saw it visually. But yeah, when I went to shake his hand, it was like his fingers and hand was going around my hand and up my forearm, crawling on me like a lobster. It's like a weird handshake. Made you want to pull your hand away and go, ooh, like what's happening here? Let me redo the screen source for you again. We're looking at the same thing. Here's watch this one, the targeted individuals.
Yeah. Left or right, Kieran?
Right, mate.
I was in 21. This is part.
I asked, that's, I guess, my blood and bits and bobs, and you can't see anything, but he's pretty sure that he got all that out. So in that is what was in my finger. I don't know what to do with it, but I'll try and get it somewhere where I'm not going. What I've got to be careful of now.
Where's the girl Sarah? I'll show you the one I was talking about. Remember at the beginning of the show I said there was this man that was threatened to not reveal the murder of Max Spears and the woman that was there at the...
It's not pleasant, is it? That sounded
at
like
the murder
somebody
when he
who was
died.
dying. Did it not?
She's going to be here. She's in the show. I just saw her face and I thought,
Max was targeted.
did I just see Sarah?
The killing is.
The investigation
wanna
into
see what
Max's
she's
death
about
was
in
still
this show.
inconclusive 8 months after it happened. But to the community, this was just another cover-up. Max was assassinated.
Hey,
Shane, how you doing? Bias.
Good. How are you? How are you feeling?
Today, very tired, very nauseous, but yeah, that's been the case since the last interview.
Just keeps talking about that one
Everything's
woman.
been cranked right up because it. Do you want to shut the door?
That's all right, so I didn't see.
Exposure is their worst factor. I think a lot of it now is we've got to be very, very careful because I think there's a lot of infiltration into the community, and they may be mentally ill, and they're trying to sort of compensate.
This video is
"Well, I'm not
about
ill,
this
I'm-
one woman's case.
I'm a targeted individual like all these other people.
Why do you think that's important?
It's putting question marks.
Notice these home invasions.
I haven't.
I saw Sarah's face. Which one was I looking at?
Sorry? You guys heard about this? People have been dying constantly. And so do you think this proves that from the workplace, right? Things like getting a load of TIs together and holding a demonstration outside the surgical reading for a number of reasons. To suggest that a large number of people are targeted individuals and being persecuted by dark, unseen forces using remote neurosurveillance and implantable devices and being mislabeled as mentally ill is hard to swallow as a medically trained person myself.
Could you imagine if you were
If someone was being trapped because they were a spy,
really
Involved in
being tortured by
espionage,
these devices,
or with the potential to
and on
commit
top of
terrorist
that, being told
activity,
that you were
but the
crazy
vast
and
majority of
mentally
people
ill?
are of no interest to
such higher powers. What is the reason for you being targeted, stroke monitored as you believe yourself to be? In terms of probability, and you are not going to like to hear this,
Is there an echo?
mental disorder. And to say otherwise
will be
Do you hear an echo
disingenuous
if you're
of
on the
me.
stream?
I sincerely hope I'm wrong, of course. There is always that possibility, but I don't think so somehow. There's two major things that stand out from this letter. One, and this is from the positive bent, shall we say, he seems to have come around to a degree in accepting some of what I'm saying to him. But the really, really infuriating aspect of this letter is the fact that he's had to bring up me having a mental disorder after I've spent all this time, and then I'm back at square one. The one that counts, the gatekeeper, the doctor I'm registered with, that legally has to deal with me, has tried to tell me that this is interference on the scans. He's rounded off this letter by stating, I'm just not convinced at all. Sorry. Well, if that's the case, I 100% believe that I can convince him. Because to my mind, I mean, I am
Wow,
blessed
you cannot
with my
convince.
mental stability. But nobody's going to accept it
Was that his
until
doctor?
they've seen physical, acceptable evidence.
Acceptable evidence. That's your problem. Who's going to accept? You know, if they're doing it and they're in
Here's all
charge
I've
of
planted all these plants, all these trees.
And did you have to leave this house because of the targeting?
Yeah. Well, they poisoned me in here.
They poisoned
They
you.
nearly killed me in here.
When you're here, do you get more targeted?
I swear, I had
all
another
sorts of,
video lined up. That
People
was
creeping around the backs and all that sort of stuff.
CIA
We get out of here.
drive.
I don't feel comfortable.
I think it was this one then.
Is the targeting?
No, it's nothing to do with targeting. Nothing.
They've got
They have two running at the same
diagrams
time.
here.
You know, you can appreciate.
Let me turn off this one. This is Rumble. Do you ever go on the Rumble platform?
There's nothing crazy about it, even if...
So can you expand on that exactly?
Well, like telepathy.
Yeah.
You know, the thing with mind control is very bad because they call it synthetic telepathy. They can induce thoughts
Synthetic
in you. They
telepathy.
can induce,
That's what it is.
voices in your head, and of course voices in your head that you're crazy, you know. They can do that, and they have done that from, at least officially, from the Iraqi First War. They gave orders to soldiers straight into their head.
They give orders
Of course, they were
straight into the head.
American, yeah, right. And if this technology,
did they use it on the enemy as well?
yes, in a way, because I always remember I was so shocked when I saw a picture when soldiers came from bunkers, Iraqi soldiers. They had bunkers and about 3-yard walls. You know, they had drinks and food for 6 months. Americans had sent helicopters above, and they had Arabic-speaking interpreters who spoke Arabic.
This is when they got them to turn their guns in, the
With
Iraqis.
microwaves, orders to come out. They were being mind controlled, and all of a sudden, all the guys came out with no reason at all. Nobody attacked physically. It was just done with mind control.
Then they have the neurophone
of Patrick Flanagan to make the target hear voices via laser, via microwaves, radiation, wave direction of sound that's being converted to electrical impulse to go straight to the target's brain. So, you know,
Line of
hearing
sight.
voices
What she's
is
talking
not
about is
a
line of
sign
sight.
of mental illness necessarily. You have to consider that it can be the military technology. And this is the greatest, I would say, insult to medical doctors, that we are not taught this. No medical doctors generally know.
The illegal use of directional energy weapons on civilians such as myself causes a great deal of psychological issues. Remote neural monitoring technology, V2K, and EMP are being used to cause mass destruction across the globe. And because not enough people are aware of this and how exactly it works, I'll explain based on my experience. Targets are being violated in every sense of the word by the ones who have their brain linked to a brain-computer interface. Once linked, the monitors can see everything.
Once linked. Linking the target must be the hardest part. These poor people, can you imagine if you are really a victim of this, and it does exist? You go to your authorities, you go to your doctor, you go to your authority figures and your principals in your society and your community, and everybody says you're crazy. And you're literally suffering from abuse and torture from illegal use of electrical conduits into your brain with symbols that harm you. Signals. No privacy. Yeah, they can give you perverse thoughts, make you think perverted things, and talk about nasty images, and do that's yucky.
American Technologies has also got Holosonic Research Labs, also has a patented version. So the military-industrial complex has been all over this. When you see something this wide, this is not just one little research project from one organization.
So nobody else around you can hear, but just the one person being beamed can hear the sound. And the university were told that this would aid the deaf enormously, because people could talk into a device and they would just hear it straight through. It was also picked up by the superstore manufacturers, who said, well, we can also use this for good, because it didn't take people very long, especially the military and other superstores, to think, well, hang on, we can use this for our own devices. So the military can now put voices into people's heads to do whatever deed they wish it to achieve.
I am a targeted individual of weaponized frequencies, and this is how I stop them. But this is what you're going to need. You need a hat.
Did you hear that? That old man said they can put voices in your head to get you to do whatever they want you to do, and just drive you to do it. And you'll think maybe you're schizophrenic. You might go to your doctor, and that's what these people are saying. They go to their doctors. I'm hearing voices. I'm scared. I'm sick. What's going on? And then they think it's, when they say they think it's pulses coming from some radio frequency, they get called stupid and psychotic.
You're going to need some blankets. These blankets are aluminum infused, and this one is a
These
copper
people have all
infused
kinds
one.
of products that they cover
So
themselves with
extremely.
to
So
block
here, take
the
a good look at it. Put the pads over here,
energy.
negative, positive, hook it up, turn it up all the way.
Looks like a
Put this
10s.
on there for comfort, and it works fantastic.
Looks like one of these 10s units that he's got. Can you believe that? That's on TikTok. Let's stop the screen there. Let me.
Tired of your devices spying on you?
Yeah, I am. Don't come back. Don't do anything. Okay. This guy, another victim, but also a whistleblower, because he was on the inside. This show's covered it. Like I said, I saw the man talking about who invented it, said that the brain's frequency of thought is between 40 and 80 hertz. So when I put 99 hertz on my son, when we were out and about, they were pissed because they couldn't reach my son and call him and say, hey, come to the office, come talk to me at the door. And my son was just sticking with me all day, and we were doing things, singing up and down the street and getting tips. And we suddenly got swarmed by, and they were all looking at me, and they were giving me this look. You could read their mind, like, what the heck did you do, mister? You've blocked our elite weapon that we're using here at the border on you as a stranger, and you're blocking our technology. Who are you? Are you an Avenger? Do you have a superpower? How in the world are you blocking our voice to God? This is the technology that got the Iraqi soldiers to turn over their guns, because the voice of Allah. They got a man that spoke their language and their culture to be the voice of Allah. And they said, turn in your guns to the Americans. Surrender. Stop fighting. It's what Allah wants you to do. And they did it. And it worked. But they did it on my son. So for my son to come home that night and tell me they wanted a token and to know why I was there and not working in my career, I was just like, I just told my son, oh, yeah, probably. But he just said some words that he would never know in a lifetime if he never went to a Mormon temple, got initiated, and these people would know my background and know that I knew these types of things so that they could ask me for that particular item, and then wanted to know also why I was not. I was just in between jobs, moving. My father had just died. I was in Houston, which is not really a good city to live in if you're looking for a job in upper management in a medical device manufacturing company. Houston is all petroleum or space, which is not actually what they say it is. That, Houston and the space program, they have a lot of studios. They have the pool that they do the spacewalks in. Sometimes you can see bubbles in space because when they go out to do a spacewalk and fix something, suddenly they have bubbles going up around them. But it's 3:00 now, so I'm going to sign out. If you enjoyed the show, but going over information on V2K and my story, what happened to me and my son, hope you enjoyed it. And let's end with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of the things that we have, and we're thankful for this platform where we can sit and talk and late at night collect our thoughts on whole and pure people that all want to hear about the truth and are tired of the manipulation and the aggressors who are taking victims and stalking and controlling minds. And we pray that those people will have relief and success with their legal problems, and having people believe them enough to cause a stop to the abuse and of the using the electrical signals to control our brains that you created, Father. And if we are being controlled, then please give us the wherewithal and the tools and the apparatus, like the unit that I have, to be able to block it and, what's the word, to destroy the effort of them, to thwart the efforts of them and make it unable to be able to control you, if it's happening to you. But these people that we're watching, Heavenly Father, they're lining their houses with radiation-proof materials and wearing hats and aluminum foil and bathing and putting electrodes on their body and everything they can do. And I put the positive and negative on my skeleton to vibrate at 99, with my son. We have to do these types of things to avoid technology that's in the hands of people that are over us. It's not very cool. And we pray that would help us to win this war against evil and have the power. And those listening now, and those are with this stream on this platform on YouTube at this moment, to have immediately a power and a clarity from so that they will defeat the suffering that they have, if they are suffering. If not, if someone's just learning about it, may their research be guided so they can find the deepest things and the truth and get it out. And this we pray, amen, God. So, all right, folks, that was Stories and Prayer. Thank you for coming. That was episode 8, Voice to God, V2K, the technology that talks into your brain. Thank you. Over and out.